Hey guys, what's going on? I'm laying back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Live is Life. Live is Life is a Spanish coming-of-age comedy drama that tells the story of Rodri, a teenage boy who leaves the city with his family after the last day of school to go on summer vacation to his parents' town in the countryside, during which he reunites with his group of friends from the area. This year, however, things are different between the group, as real-world problems threaten to drift them apart from each other. The boys decide to go on an adventure across the land in search of a rare flower said to grant wishes to those who find it, in hopes of solving their problems and to have the most memorable summer of their lives. It's different from the usual coming-of-age story with its more mature presentation, but it works to its benefit. Despite some unusual story elements, it succeeds in telling a wonderful story about boys becoming men, all of whom learn to have hope in the face of adversity. Although his role is kind of diluted once the story gets going, Rodri was a good protagonist. He helped set the stage for events to follow, becoming a sympathetic character upon being chased by bullies and having to hide his bad grades from his overbearing family. His problems help him become a relatable character, which makes it easier to connect to all the other members of the group as they share their own baggage with each other. I was surprised with how much depth and personality all of them had, and how well the movie was able to juggle all of their arcs at once. Garriga was very likable on account of his one single desire, which was to kiss a girl he has a crush on, but his insecurity over his weight leaves him lacking confidence in himself. It was great to see him start coming out of his shell as his friends rally him on, and he adds a lot of humor to the group as well, especially whenever he starts freaking out over the deteriorating state of his bicycle. Suso took a while to grow on me, but I eventually came to appreciate him as a character. He's very much the grown-up of the group, making decisions and taking initiative when others can't agree. He helps the group stay focused, and his arc where he comes to accept the medical state of his father's coma was heartbreaking to see. Out of all the 5 characters, I thought Alvaro was the most interesting. He suffers from cancer but isn't afraid of it or others who try to intimidate him because of it. Despite him clearly being in pain, he wields a dauntless level of courage to prevent his friends from worrying about him, which endeared me to his character. The relationship between him and his brother Maza, the final member of the group, adds more emotional weight to his condition, as Maza wants to be able to spend as much time as possible with Alvaro in case his cancer ends up killing him. Their struggle ends up being the force that binds the group together, which gives them an almost family-level dynamic that makes their already charming friendship even more amazing. On top of each group member having good backstory behind them, all of the boys have great chemistry together on screen. The way they exchange banter and jokes with each other, even with Alvaro who doesn't shy away from jokes about his condition, makes them more believable as friends. What makes them truly great as a group though, is all the little things they do to have fun along the way during their travels. They play soccer together, share Coca-Cola from the same bottle, and exchange trading cards with each other. They behave exactly like boys their age normally would. However, with them being teenagers, they also do things that are more on the mischievous side of things, such as drinking liquor, breaking into private property, or sneaking into parties. All of these activities represent their adolescence and how they're figuring out their transition to adulthood while savoring the remaining days of their childhood. The movie evokes a feeling of nostalgia that reminded me of my own childhood when I was watching it, which helped me connect and relate better to the characters. It definitely helps that it's mostly set in the great outdoors during the 1980s, a time far removed from all of the craziness associated with social media and technology in general, which helps the story stay grounded and focused. But it being grounded doesn't mean the story is entirely serious. Part of what makes this movie so appealing is how whimsically it's presented. The boys get involved in a variety of hijinks and situations that help keep the story exciting, as they find themselves biking from one town to another, swimming in private pools, and camping in the woods. By far, the best aesthetic element about the movie is its music. Whenever the boys are on a run or up to something, the movie plays a Celtic/folk themed soundtrack that sounds like something from the medieval era, and it's awesome. The music added a lot of energy to the adventure and always put a smile on my face whenever it played. The cinematography of the beautiful country scenery also adds this larger-than-life aspect to the journey the boys undertake. Their voyage across the land with bikes in tow almost feels like a modern-day myth, with how they search for a legendary artifact of sorts, which added to the fun nature of its premise. The essence of summer can be felt throughout the whole movie. Even though the group members do experience conflict from time to time, the carefree, uplifting nature of the story is emphasized enough to a point that it never becomes too overbearing. This being said, the movie isn't without conflict or problems altogether. The boys often encounter a group of scoundrels called the Sioux, a biker gang from the area who chase after and attack the boys whenever they so much as cross their line of vision. And if I'm being honest, I wasn't a big fan of how they were portrayed in this movie. It's not that I think there shouldn't be any sources of conflict outside of the group, more so that the gang doesn't really have much depth behind it. If there was any sort of bad blood or history they shared with one or more members of the group, their hostility would make sense, but because there isn't any, their actions basically amount to them being little more than territorial dickheads. The story also tended to get unusually dark at times, more than I thought it should anyway. There's a moment about halfway through the story where the boys find themselves in an incredibly distressing situation, which was completely out of sync with everything else they were doing up to that point. I understand that the movie is much more mature than the average coming-of-age story, and it makes sense to examine more adult-oriented topics, but that scene was way too much. It caused a massive tonal shift that took a while for the movie to recover from, and it didn't add that much to the story in the long run. Thankfully, the movie is able to shine through all the darkness and problems it faces itself, and each character is able to come to a satisfying conclusion, which is no easy feat considering there's 5 of them. It promotes a positive message about living life to the fullest every day without regrets, which is a sentiment that I think everyone can agree on. Overall, Live is Life is a bold take on the coming-of-age genre, and one that is both heartwarming and inspiring in its approach. If you like coming-of-age stories and you want to see one that's told from the perspective of an older demographic, you definitely should check this one out. Though it does experience shortcomings in terms of dramatic conflict, everything else is solid in its execution. The chemistry of its cast and whimsical presentation combine to create a feel-good nostalgia trip that demonstrates Live truly is life. What did you think about this movie? Did you flash back to your own childhood when watching it, or did it not draw that much of a reaction from you? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Live is Life. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the Polish family film, Too Old for Fairy Tales. Bye bye!